daughter was taken from us, from our house, going to school.
Her brother told police he saw a man leading his sister into the woods.
A white man in camouflage, anywhere from 5'10" to 6 feet tall.
We feel that she knew that she was in fear of her life, so she was complying with his commands.
Investigators found blood in the family's driveway.
We are still analyzing that at the GBI crime lab, and hopefully soon we will know exactly whose blood that was.
I mean, the whole family is just torn to pieces right now.
She's just so precious, you just don't even know.
This family obviously wants answers. They want their little girl back.
The family right now is trying to be strong. You know, it doesn't seem real. You know, that's the last phone call you ever expect to get, you know? And it's a close family, so we're just trying to hold it together. We just want her back, no matter if you know, if anybody knows anything that they might not even feel would be important, but if it is anything, any details, anything weird that they've seen, they'll just come forward with all that. And I hope they come forward with any information that could lead to getting her back. We need to go search.
That was country music star Whitney Duncan on ABC's Good Morning America in an emotional plea for the safe return of her cousin Holly Bobo. The phones have been lighting up like Christmas trees. With us on the line from North Carolina is Pam. Hi, Pam. What's your question?
Hi. I was wondering, is it possible that she left on her own? I mean, that this, you know, I mean, I'm not saying that it was, but that it might have been staged. She took her lunchbox. Was the lunchbox empty? Did she take it with her because she knew they would be out and they would, you know, need to hide out for a while, need to have food? You know, just a possibility.
Tammy Ramey, we want to answer that question. Is this the kind of thing that Holly would ever do, to stage her own abduction, to get away from town, get away from home?
Never in a million years. No. No.
And what about some of our police experts? Mark Harold, is that the sort of thing that would possibly happen based on what we know about this young lady?
Anything's possible. It could have been a situation where it was compliant and something went wrong, but there's absolutely no indication. All information about her has been very consistent. There's no indication that she would do this. There's also no indication that she would put her family through this. That seems, anything's possible. That seems very unlikely from what we're hearing about the victim.
One of the things that law enforcement have been doing is looking at everyone in the area. They're asking people, if you've seen anything unusual, please speak about it. Kelly Sandin is an attorney, a former prosecutor. Kelly, what is the sort of thing that they're going to be looking at in terms of the kinds of people in the area, sex offenders, people with criminal records, people who can't account for their whereabouts the morning that Holly disappeared? What are they going to be honing in on?
You're exactly right. They're going to look for sex offenders. They're going to look on predators. They're going to look for people that have had recidivism where they go back and they assault individuals. Anyone in the community that is now missing from their job, that's called in from work, that isn't acting properly, that's deviated from routine, that's cleaning their car, anything that will raise suspicion that they're trying to cover their tracks or that they're out of their routine, they're going to be looking at these people. Because it's such a small community, it doesn't seem like sex offenders are often there. Nobody's talked about that yet, but it's something that they're going to be looking into for sure.
Well, we're actually just had a graphic, and maybe we can put it back up, of the known sex offenders, the registered sex offenders within a 6-mile area of the Bobo home. There are 251 within a wider area, but a much smaller number within a 6-mile area, only 14. Is that significant, Wendy Walsh?
I mean, I can walk 6 miles in a day, and if there are 14 men who have been caught, I like to say whenever I talk about the amount of sex offenders in a neighborhood, you have to remember those are the ones who have been caught. That's a big ratio in a 6-mile radius, don't you think?
Well, it strikes me in a very sparsely populated area.
Right.
The population is only 2,500. That strikes me as an awful lot of people, but there's not necessarily a connection between their presence and a crime. Is there, Alex Sanchez?
No, and you could be certain that the police are tracking down every one of those sex offenders. They know where they live. They have to be registered with the local police department. They have to report to the local police department. And the first group of people that the police are going to investigate are those sex offenders. So they went out there and they determined where those people were and whether or not there's any questions about their background.
Joe Gomez, what can you tell us about the investigation in terms of looking at persons of suspicion? Is there anyone who has been named a person of interest in this case?
Well, not yet, Deborah, but police aren't ruling out anybody. You know, initially they did say that they were ruling out the brother and also the boyfriend, but now investigators say that everybody's open. Everybody's open to suspicion. They have not, placed anybody outside of the box yet. I mean, the fact is, anybody could have taken Holly into the woods. We don't know who it was. This man was in camouflage. He knew exactly what he was doing. He must have known where he was going. I mean, this is a very densely wooded area, very rough terrain. And the fact that we have not found any trace of her outside of a lunchbox and some blood on a carport, very, very concerning news, Deborah. She could be in a very dangerous situation right now.
Michael Gass, how much should be read into the fact that there has been virtually no trace of this young woman or her abductor, no suspicious tire tracks, no evidence of clothing caught on branches, because there are a lot of brambles and briars in there. How significant is that?
Well, something that's well planned, it looks like. Whether it's the perpetrator that's planned it well or something that's been done in tandem with the victim, but obviously they mark their tracks well.
Karen from Delaware, you're with us on the line. What's your question?
Yes, I was just wondering, is it a possibility that it was actually not Holly that they were after, but maybe Whitney Duncan, somebody trying to get back at her for something, for a stalker or somebody that she scorned, a fan, something of that nature.
Does that make sense, Mark Harold? If this is so well planned, surely they would know which house to visit.
Yeah, I mean, if somebody who was really in to get Whitney would probably know her whereabouts. This looks like something where the schedule was really studied. He had a good idea of where she'd be and all that. Again, absolutely anything is possible. Anything could have happened. That could have been the motive, who knows? But it doesn't look like it. It looks like this was a planned crime, the way it was executed, and the fact that really nothing's turned up. This was a very planned crime, and she was the intended victim. This doesn't look random at all. And Wendy Walsh, if this was a planned crime, and all indications are that it was, would there have not been signs on the part of the perpetrator leading up to this?
Certainly. I mean, if this perpetrator lived with family and with the community, he certainly could have left clues that he was planning.
Like what?
Well, he certainly could have been even gathering things like the duct tape or the weapons or changing tires on his car all of a sudden the day before to make the treads different. There are all kinds of changes in behavior that people do when they're planning things. We must hold out hope, though, Deborah. This has been 1 week, and although statistical probability that she's not alive is huge here, we can't forget cases like J.C. Dugard or Elizabeth Smart, who were kept as, as sex toys for these men. So we have to hold out hope for this family, and our prayers are with them.
And Mark Harold, what is the likelihood, as time goes by, it is not anyone's friend in a case like this, what is the likelihood that she could still be alive?
Well, the statistics, just like was mentioned, the longer the time passes, if it's not, again, about money, there's no ransom, there's no indication that it's part of it's a bigger crime. It's just focused on the victim. As time passes, statistically, it's less and less likely that the person is alive. But you have to keep up hope. That's all they have to go on right now. And I know that they're going to keep going, and I agree, your hearts go out to this family. This is a real tragedy.
Wendy Walsh, it was mentioned the Elizabeth Smart case, the J.C. Dugard case. There was another case of a girl who was kidnapped in plain sight, kidnapped in North Carolina, and kept in an underground bunker for 10 days before her cell phone was able to work enough that she could send out a signal for help. Is something like that possible in sort of a mountain man case like the Elizabeth Shove case?
Of course. It's completely possible that someone doesn't want to rape and kill her, but wants to keep her as her private little sex slave. So we have to hold out hope for that reason, that she could be kidnapped, that she could be in fear for her life constantly, and that's one way to control. I mean, you don't have to control with weapons. You can control emotionally very easily by using fear. So that's a big possibility, Deborah.
All right, we'll continue exploring this mystery coming up in just a few moments. But first, we want to pause and make a special tribute to a fallen American.